6:30 p.m. Georgiana, can I have a roll call, please?
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Hutt?
Here.
President Corolla?
Here.
Director Kellogg?
Here.
Vice President Duncan?
Here. Thank you, Georgiana. I see we have a lot of people here tonight. I figure you're all here for one issue, so what we'll try to do is get through our basic stuff here real quick, and then we're going to try to move you guys up in the agenda. So
Do them right after check.
bear with us. I'm going to get you as quick as I can. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
I move approval of the consent calendar.
I second it. Do I have anybody that wants anything discussed or removed?
Just discuss, nothing really.
What item do you have?
You've got a margin.
What was it, A, B, C, or D?
No, it's charts and stuff. Regular staff report or zoning report. It's in there. So C. If you want, B or B, we can put it off until after.
Let's go ahead. Motion two.
Well,
Kevin, what iPad page, and then we move to it.
iPad page 23. This shows how much pipeline we installed this year. And I just wanted to bring it to attention that we're going to install 90 feet in the least amount since I've been on board. It's not, the year isn't over yet. And then on the next page over, on 24, iPad 24, down at recreation, it says Lake Activity Saturday, October 19th, Lake Adventure Relay Event. You know what, does the Lake Committee know exactly what that is?
I was kind of surprised by it too.
Oh, okay.
It's not a PID sponsored event. It's a local organization. This is the third year. I've talked about it in past years that they do a triathlon and they pay the fee for the event and it's held there and it's just FYI for you guys.
No swimming.
No swimming.
No swimming in the event.
Part of the triathlon is kayaking, I believe.
Okay.
And then on page 29, it shows water consumption compared to last year and this year. And now we're consuming less water than last year. Sort of surprised because we're both, last year and this year we're sort of drawing to see the water consumption. Then on page 31, iPad, it shows the use of the PID permit comparison. I want to comment one thing. At the Park and Recs District, somebody gave Park and Rec the credit for a few minutes there that are our beautiful lake and everything, and then Mike was kind enough to tell you that belonged to Paradise Irrigation. We appreciate the comments. Actually, our uses keep growing, and this chart shows that we're increasing use again this year over the previous year. And let's see, 33. It's actually 34 is what I wanted to make comment. We sold 202 acre feet to Paradise Pines and Regalia for water this year. Is that an increase over last year, George? Or?
Yes, because they got their lime saddle pipeline installed, and that's not our water, that's their water. So rather than transferring it to lime saddle, they are requiring, or asking for it to be delivered to the pines. That's the Sterling Bluffs water.
Oh, okay. We treat it too.
They pay us to treat it and deliver it.
So we do cooperate with other low-sand irrigation districts. And that's it.
That water from the Sterling Bluffs, is that come out, and then get out?
Yes,
Where do they dump it in so we can pick it up for free?
yeah, we dump it out of the Hendricks and it flows into Paradise Lake.
Through a little bit.
Yes.
Is it run through the powerhouse first, or do you know, does they get the other stuff? What
I
they
don't
do?
know.
I have a question.
Okay.
Last time I requested something about how the meters were helping our customers. It didn't get in there yet, did
Yeah, we got to that yet.
it? Are you gonna do it?
We're working on it.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know whether you decided not to or whether you were going to. Maybe I couldn't find it.
We're working on a good one.
Good.
Detailed analysis for you.
Good.
Okay, all in favor of approving the consent calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not on the scheduled agenda. Although the board cannot take action on a matter not on the agenda, comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for the public comment on agenda items will be provided at the time they are discussed by the board, with comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. And I will ask and remind everybody, is there anybody that had anything that was not on the agenda tonight that they wanted to? Lauren?
I'd just like to ask the council to, the board to speak a little more into their microphones, because there's so many people here, it's a little hard to understand some of you.
Probably turn the volumes up.
Thank you.
If that's possible. So, I know that a lot of you are here for one item, and I'm going to ask that we keep this respectful and orderly. We're more than willing to hear all of you who want to speak, but I will insist that it remains orderly. So, with that in mind, we'll be getting up to that in a few minutes. Committee reports and presentations. Presentation from the PID Investment Advisor, Aaron Bay, Dave Wardakis, and Associates.
Do we want to move that?
Do you want to move it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just move that off. We're going to move number 4. We're just going to take number 4, we're just going to move it out. We're going to move the general manager's report out, legal report out, and we are going to get to 7, old business, which is what I believe everybody's here for. Item A, Paradise Recreation and Park District property off Henley Road. Review and consider request for reconsideration submitted by Joseph W. Baggett, relating to action taken by PID Board of Directors at the regular meeting of September 18th, 2018. Joe, would you like to get up to the podium?
Okay, over here. Sure.
George, did you want to say yes?
Really nice work. Thank everybody for coming. Hello, members of the board. My name is Joe Baggett. I come here as a concerned citizen. I live at 5810 Oak Creek Drive in the neighborhood of Oak Creek Park. When I come here today, and all my friends and neighbors are here too also, is to let you know how important that park is to us and how much we do not want it sold. We had a hearing at the Rec and Parks Department last week, and the Recs and Park Department has decided to table the whole issue. They did not declare it surplus property. They did not authorize coming to your board to discuss the deed, and they did not authorize sale. Those were the matters of the notice they had for their meeting of last week. I submitted a little letter to you all. It's one of the attachments to it. So I think inadvertently this board took some action at your last meeting, September 18th, which would set some wheels turning as far as revamping the deed language so that the property could be sold outside of the public realm, maybe, but sold in one way or another. That property's been owned for 105 years by the public, since 1908 by your district, and in 1974 you deeded it over to Rex and Park with a reversionary deed that if the Parks and Rec wanted to either not use it as a park or sell it, that it came back to you. Well, there's been an overwhelming public support to Rec and Park Department last week that we wanted to remain a park. The board seemed very impressed and well aware of that, and has sent that to committee with Rex and Park as far as how to best serve the public as a park or a nature preserve, according to their own 10-year master plan. Anyhow, what I'm asking you to reconsider is any action you took last week, it would have been last month. That would have been item 8G of your last month's agenda. And ask that because of lack of meaningful public notice and lack of authority from the Parks and Rec Board for that action, and the fact that wasn't later ratified by the board, in fact the opposite, that we ask please that you reverse and set aside any action you took on that matter, and certainly table it for whatever comes in the future. And we're asking, please, that this being 105-year-old public land, that if anything comes before your board, before yourselves, altering in any way or even anything to do with how that land is held, that you post it at the entrance of the park at Oak Creek Drive. As later the Rex and Park Department did, and that led to a great deal of public interest. And that would be the same with this board, as you can see here tonight. So that's what we ask, and with that, I ask you if you could please take a look at the little letter I submitted, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Was there any comments from the public or somebody else from the
Do
public?
you want me to?
Yeah, George, yeah. Let's let George kind of explain to you folks what's kind of in the process right here.
This came before this board last month. It was simply providing PRPD an option in their evaluation of what to do. We're not in the park business. It's not what we do. So we were only giving them another option as they were evaluating that piece of property. So they know where this board stands. They know what your feelings were at that point. So I would say the simplest way to deal with this is reverse your decision and just, if the park wants to proceed with the sale, and they know where you stand, and they know that they need your permission to do that. So there's no reason to let last month's decision stand. It's not, we're not in the park business. We'll let them figure out how to deal with that and move on. I wouldn't commit, contrary to your request, making any notice any more than we're required to by law, just because there's an opportunity to stumble on that, and I wouldn't want to disappoint somebody. So that's my input.
So the effect of your action last month was to present an offer to PRPD. And by not acting, that board not acting on that offer, it could be rescinded freely. You know, I understand that the folks in the room here are concerned. When a public agency acts, there's a lot of safeguards in place, and one of which is public notice of meetings. So while we can't specifically commit to give you a posted notice on your street, we are legally obligated to give you public notice of every meeting we have. So you can request copies be delivered to your home address or business address, whatever the case may be. Email. You're also welcome to check the district's website. The agenda packets are posted at that location. So meeting notices are one avenue. Another avenue is the CEQA process. Anytime you propose to sell property for a purpose that possibly is different from what it's historically been used for, there's an environmental review process that involves public comment, so that's another opportunity. But back to what the board can do tonight, you can rescind your prior action. It doesn't really tie the park's hands at all. If they want to reconsider this issue, they can do so at a meeting that they have, and then they can come to this board with another proposal, whatever that may be. So
Could we not also just leave it as is? We
I
told them that we would give them the approval, that we would be willing to let them have the property with no strings attached. Whether they act upon that or not is up to them.
Yeah, at some point, the legal effect of an offer is after a reasonable period of time, if it's not accepted, it's deemed rejected. So it's not like our offer will just be hanging out there indefinitely. At some point, if PRPD does not act on it, it will be effectively rejected.
They table the issue indefinitely, then.
Right.
But they haven't tabled it indefinitely yet.
Well, we don't know.
They have.
Yes, they have.
They haven't tabled it, I thought they formed a committee.
No, they table it indefinitely, send it to committee for further study.
Yeah, well, yeah, to me, that's not tabled. That's further study.
All I can say is the expression they used was tabled indefinitely.
The thing is they can't, the only thing they can do with it as it stands now is at the park. So they can't do anything with it unless we give them their permission. And as you've heard, we don't want it back.
Well, according to what Joe said, they did not have board, and I'm going to maybe say, their Mike maybe did not have board approval when he came to us to ask. Although I think he was kind of in the right process of asking us if it was something that he could go to his board with. So inadvertently, I don't think that anybody had ill feelings towards this piece of land. It was just that the way the chain of events occurred, it just didn't give you guys notice.
Yeah.
We see now that there's a lot of people that are concerned about this piece of property, and that's great. I've known that piece of property, I'm born and raised in Paradise, so we've all.
Now, we did get, last meeting, we got a letter from somebody that was against it, didn't we?
There was one letter.
So somebody
was
out there.
There was also
Paying
one letter
attention.
that was complaining about the parking at the park entrance.
Right.
So we had kind of an offset of one letter and one letter.
Yeah, so somebody was out there paying attention, which is good.
I really don't see a problem at this point rescinding what we did last month and wait until the park moves forward. If they want to come back to us, then ample public notice can be given.
President, that's what I like to do. I think that's a very business-wise thing. It sends a signal to the Park and Rec District Board. And I'd like to move that we rescind item, or action on item 8G of the PID agenda 918 for the action taken affecting Oak Creek Park.
Second.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to have further discussion on it before we vote?
I would think, I know Mike Crichter real well, have a tremendous amount of respect for the person. I think he's done an awesome job with our rec department. And he and the board, I know some of those people also, if they want to consider it any further, then you'll really know where we stand, because we're not in the park business. The only business we're in, park-wise, is getting it around our lakes and the watershed.
I think that's really what he might want to know. And the thing is I don't know if you realize it, but the park district is hurting for money. Their fees are being increased, their income is being lowered, and so they're just looking for a way to get out of having to maintain something that hardly anybody uses. And to me, it was just a way of getting money.
Remember, there's quite a, I have a feel at, I went and looked at it over the hill as far as I wanted to go.
Oh, yeah.
Who walks around that park?
Every day.
That shows you there's a lot of people.
Every day.
Every day. Once a month?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
That's a beautiful canyon. I used to camp down from that just a little way as a Boy Scout. That was before Pearson came down here. We had to walk up from Stearns.
You're dating yourself there.
That was last year, if I remember correctly.
If I was the rec district, I would be looking for a way to recoup the cost to maintain that place from the people who use it. No, I think there is. What is the maintenance? How much is the maintenance over there?
Oh, it's very little.
Oh, I thought it was getting bigger and bigger.
No, you
The
know.
fire
actually,
department isn't bothering you?
Next week, you're spending $1,400 on it to have it surveyed. We'll spend probably another $500. We have a trespass we have to deal with. So, that's a couple $1,000s there that we're spending on it. We spent about, $2,000 or $3,000 when we did the brush clearing on it, when we had to do that fire break. Did about 2 years of spraying. Not the canopy that kept the weeds down, it was good old Roundup. But very little as far as park goes, that, yeah.
Very.
So the maintenance doesn't bother you then?
Yeah.
Good. That was my concern.
Is there any other comments from the board?
Yeah. Like I said, we passed along a courtesy back to the PRPD, and they're the ones who make a decision as to whether they're gonna take that property and turn it into a park, a real park, or whether they need to cut their losses and sell it, dispose of it. Makes no difference to us. One of the items that PRPD could do, they could abandon the property, revert the deed process back to Paradise Irrigation District. And I can guarantee you that if we get it back, it's just a surplus piece of land. We are not going to be developing a park into it, and we would then declare it as surplus property and dispose of it in the quickest manner that we could. Anyhow, that would be one of the actions we could take. So the fact that we have given them the authority to take an action, either moving ahead with their process or not, we're not the kingpin. We shouldn't be the one that you're soliciting to try and save your park. This is kind of like one of those things where you want to have us to be a roadblock for you just as another measure to prevent them from changing it. And I don't think that's appropriate. That's their responsibility. It's not our responsibility. I would suggest we leave it as it is and not rescind the action. Because then they will go ahead and probably, with all of the public support for making this a park, it's kind of seems to me that it's going to be made into one that's more open, or I don't know what it is that you're all wanting, or just keep it the same way that it is. But that's certainly not our decision. And that's my comment to the board. Except you have a public member.
I'm sorry, sir. Yes?
Al Rodriguez, 57 Lemon Hillby. Now, I retired from the Department of Corrections, and I ran the work crews. So all that area in there, they're talking about costs involved in maintaining that. Why can we not use inmate labor as they do up at the lake to keep that area clean, berry bush, and it doesn't cost us a dime. We're already paying to house them, let's use them.
I think when we use them, we pay a small portion, but that is something directed for the parks, not for PID, because we're not in charge of taking care of the land. So you want to relay those comments to the park and rec district.
Thank you.
Thank you for that
It
comment.
is food for thought.
Yep.
I think
we utilize those crews quite often during the course of the year and brush cleaning around the lake.
I know some jobs up there.
Yeah, so.
I think our board basically didn't want to get involved and wanted the park people to take it to the lake.
Well, I think we're involved, so I
Yeah,
think
we are.
we're going to, is there any other, Bill, do you have any comments?
Just a question.
Okay.
Call for
Call for the question, okay. I'll say the question is? Okay, all in favor of rescinding last month's decision on September 18th, say aye. 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 All against?
That would be me.
That's one.
Two.
Passes.
Two.
Two. I'm sorry, Rick. Didn't see it. I thought you said aye.
Two passes.
Passes 3-2 on there. So I hope folks, when the park makes a decision on what they want to do with it, when they come back from committee, that you will be noticed. That notice will not come from us. Okay, just so you know, no matter what happens, that notice will not be coming from us. But if you want to look at our agenda, it is available online, or you can call the office and they will send you a packet of one of the so that you know what's going on in our agenda.
Well, we thank you for your time and listening to our comments. Thank you very much.
I appreciate all of you showing up. That's great.
Give us a call.
She doesn't proofread test.
Okay, well, I'll definitely pass that on.
But I thought the name was right.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'll definitely pass that
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and continue with the meeting. We're gonna go back.
Information we got was from Mike Trinket in regard to the ice rink that's coming in here, about the great venture and the white rolling of the dice. And I was a little amazed to hear some of these numbers, but that ice rink is a rented ice rink. They rent it for 9 weeks at the rate of $10,000 per week. And at the end of that $90,000 expense, they pack it up and move it on back out. But, you know, he's done a lot of work up front, getting donations. Rotary donated $20,000. I believe PG&E donated $10,000. Feather River Hospital, I think, donated $10,000. And then there were a host of other smaller donors to help defray that cost. And should be rather exciting, and he's very excited about the opportunity to see if this doesn't pull off and increase tourism and usage up here in Paradise. And see, it's an interest. I think that they're committed to running this for 3 years and then evaluate and see if they have any shekels left in their pockets. And then we scheduled one more meeting, but once again, just like I did last month, I write these notes on my page, I staple my lunch receipt to it, put the mileage on it, and then I get to my office and somewhere it gets eaten up. I don't know when we scheduled our meeting for. It seems to me like it was for November this month.
No, it's been moved to December 11th.
Was it December 11th?
Yeah, they were gonna have it in November, and then they moved it to
Okay,
December
so it's
11th.
the other way around.
So George, you better be there
Yeah.
to protect yourself. You may end up being president.
And that's elected.
Yeah, but I mean, to keep yourself from getting elected.
And that was the extent of our meeting.
Well, the interesting thing is, it's only gonna be open 57 days, the rink. And they have to have over 170 people a day in order to break even.
It's interesting, you know, there's no.
It looks like it's gonna be a break-even event.
Well, they're hoping,
I'm hoping that it is, but.
they're hoping it will be. It cost them $70,000 to run the power across the street,
PG&E
to freeze the water.
took up
And that, at first it was going to be $150,000, but they were
Then
able to
the
use
Dollar
some
General
savings.
store came in and had to
Saved
change out a transformer, which is what cut the price.
Saved them down to $70,000. But I can't believe that I hope they make it, but I can't believe it.
I kind of wondered what happens with the $40 raise for people are not going to come.
Well, they get additional rental income from the umbrellas.
Through the road.
Right. And they are gonna serve alcohol.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So we're gonna have some.
It goes better than ice skating alcohol, right? Yeah. Does tend to get a
You
little-
don't feel the cold. Also, with that machine going, though, if it rains, it's gonna be snow. It won't be rain, it'll be snow.
You know, from my fair experience, hot weather or rain kills people from coming out. They just won't do it in the rain. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Maybe it's snowing, who knows?
Well, it's $10 per person all day. But they say that the average person only lasts a couple hours.
I think he said 40 minutes.
Nothing better.
Yeah.
Shorter than that. I was thinking, but with alcohol, it might be a little longer.
It should be a very, you know,
Keep the ambulances very busy.
the one up in Ashland does, seems to do quite well, so.
They're also gonna have food.
It should be,
Interesting.
equitable for the businesses in Paradise. If they're constructive in the way they do it. Thank you for those board reports. We're going to go on to the general manager's report, item number 5. George,
Thank you.
please.
You do not have my written report, because I was on vacation. I'll give you a verbal, best I can do. Since Keith Welch is here, I'll start with our CCC grant efforts, and I haven't talked to you, I'll let him jump in and let us know where we're at in that process.
Howdy. CCC was given a big chunk of money through Prop 40, and there was certain qualifications that had to be met for proposals to be forwarded. And the first requirement that you had to meet was you had to be in one of the 15 counties in the state of California that were eligible for Prop 40 funding. And Butte County was the farthest north out of all the counties that were eligible for funding. The second requirement was that any work that was going to be done had to be done on state responsibility areas, which are areas that CAL FIRE has responsibility for suppressing fires on. So it couldn't be part of an area that was covered by the local resource or local response area, which would be the Paradise Fire Department. Another requirement is that the area that was going to be worked on had to be identified by CAL FIRE as being a watershed assessment at risk. And Magalia Reservoir met all those qualifications. So I approached George and asked him if there would be any possibility for CCC to come in and do some work along or around Magalia Reservoir. And George identified that the whole, if that map is correct, north, south, east, west, everything along the right side, which would be the east side from the dam going all the way back, there's quite a bit of property there that could be, fuel could be cut on, and we would do a shaded fuel break. So we're looking at 60% reduction in the overhead canopy and reducing the effect that if a wildland fire was to start on the hill and then start going downhill towards the reservoir, there'd be a shaded fuel break, which would enable firefighting forces to get in and hopefully stop the fire and reduce the amount of erosion and other detrimental effects to the water supply for the Magalia Reservoir. So I submitted 4 grants, the PID proposal being one of them, and so far we've made it through the first round of cuts. And so we're still in the running. And I guess the thing that I'm looking for tonight is the one document that we need that I can't do is to get a CEQA done for this project. And I'm going to need like a letter of support, an email letter saying that the PID would pay for the CEQA document to be done. I think that this qualifies as under the CEQA regulations as a notice of exemption, which means it'll be a $50 filing fee. We're not going to disturb any of the land. We're going to cut on the property, and then we're going to run everything that we cut through a chipper and blow the chips back on the property. So it would add to a mulch layer, which will hopefully decrease the level of erosion from any kind of water running down into the reservoir. That's basically it. So,
Should we do that in-house?
The CEQA, partially.
Because I think the town does theirs in-house.
There's a cultural review and a biological review, and they have a different level for shaded fuel breaks, and we've worked with Kelly Jane and Butte Fire Safety Council in the past, helping us do those. They're a little less expensive and in depth, and so, yeah, it would be reasonable. I'm thinking we're talking about $1,000 to $2,000 is what I'm guessing.
CAL FIRE now does the fire department in Paradise. Does that make a difference?
no. So that was the first thing I looked at, was I figured we could have all of Paradise. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still listed on all the CAL FIRE maps as a local response area.
They're just subbed out.
It's a
They're
contract.
trying to take over.
Essentially. And I guess the thing I failed to mention is that right now the proposal that I've turned in for is for about 3,000 hours of core member labor to come and work on cutting the shaded fuel break. So a crew, which is about 10 core members,
can usually put in about 100 hours a day. So if they work 5 days a week, we'll be able to put in 500 hours a week. And for 3,000 hours, we'd be able to have 6 weeks of work that would be completed while we're working on that project.
Good amount of.
How does the grant funding work? Does the district cover workers' compensation?
No, CCC covers that.
Okay.
So that, other than the CEQA, I don't think that there's any real costs that the district would have. So
CC is the grant recipient. It's just our line.
yeah, so CCC covers everything else. So we provide the equipment, the supervisors, and the supervision, and the training, and the chainsaws, the chipper, everything else.
Well, a couple thousand would be well worth it.
Unless there's another place we get labor for what kind of money.
For nothing.
So that leads me into the second one.
Take it easy.
Jim Passanisi and I met with the sheriff's department. And while I was gone, Jim developed a little more project list with them. And the sheriff has a field work program similar to the CAL FIRE CDC. They're a more local group. They're a group of people that are mostly same level, low threat, low whatever their parameters are. Most of them are actually in a home release, where they've got ankle bracelets, and then they come into the place for the work day, and then they bust them up to work. So we've identified some more brush work, etc. Other projects, Jim?
Most of it's brush work. Greg Dobbs has some little minor construction jobs at the lake.
So we're looking to use that. You know, that they cover the minor cost. Again, I forget the dollar number. It's very low for a large crew. We do have to provide more equipment than CCC provides, so they're using our chipper, our
Saws.
our
Shovels.
saws, yep, shovels.
Knockers.
They have
They bring the safety gear
safety gear and the restroom.
Yeah. and a supervisor. Keep track, I'll keep an eye on it.
Do we hold any liability against them using our equipment? Someone falls on a chainsaw, whatever the case may be.
I don't think so.
We do training, even though right now the sheriffs are training these people. When they show up, Greg Dobbs gives them additional training on the equipment that we provide.
The answer would be who's expected to pay for workers' comp. That's why I asked that question. If we're expected to pay workers' comp, then it's on us. If they cover workers' comp, then it's on them. Unless there's some kind of gross.
In the case of a prisoner furlough or better work furlough program or something like that, how would that be?
Yeah, I don't even know if they have that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a permit. Yeah.
But that would be something that, if it came across my desk, I'd be looking for that. And I'm sure there would be a contract.
Jim got a contact, he'll get verified.
I sound more like my boss every day, so I gotta stop that. Okay. But thank you, Jim, for looking into that. That's good.
The processed water recycling project, we received a draft analysis of options from the engineer to our staff, and they've been working diligently and have responded with their comments on that draft report. So as that gets worked through by the consultant, then we'll be getting closer to coming back to you with that report and the findings and any recommendations we would have. So it's moving forward. Courtyard is moving well. Got most of the drywall in, taped, getting ready to texture, insulation, quite a bit that's done. So there's a lot of accomplishments. You probably saw some concrete being poured out here for the electrical generator and transformer pad. And so we're moving through. We got lots of gravel and the base rock installed up behind the new shop and along the other side. We've actually been moving materials from the old yard, fittings, et cetera, are getting moved over and placed in the areas that we've got that lot finished. So it's going well, and it looks very nice, and I think that the guys are very proud of the work they're putting in there.
I looked at it today and it didn't look very good. And, everything, equipment, new parts and stuff on 4x4 pallets with traction behind it. The gravel is all done behind it, and the front of it's looking great. We're working with the industrial this week. We like a lot's been accomplished, and it's been almost a month since.
I thought you said it didn't look.
Yeah, I thought you said it didn't look great.
No,
Yeah, that's why I was, and then within your description was, that sounds great. And I'm like, are we sure that wasn't great?
No, you guys just, we're so used to bitching about it.
No, it really sounded like you said didn't look great.
Yeah, I thought you said also.
Yeah,
Also.
Yeah, it's on, it looks good.
Shall we play it back?
We don't have to play that.
That's why your description, I was like, okay, different, but I'm glad that's, because that's what I saw too.
So George, when do you think we're going to move in?
That was good.
Well, the big catch right now is the power. So that's why we had to get that pad down. We're scheduling the crane to bring in the generator and the transformer switch gear and the transformers. That all has to be ready. So then we're going to be on PG&E schedule. So that's kind of where we can't nail anything down because we have to have power before we can totally move over there.
Christmas morning, 7 a.m. to
Yeah.
That's moving down.
So can't give you a definite date, but it's getting closer, and that's kind of one of the big pitches.
We must always have more power than now than we have down here on Black Hawk. Is there any power on Black Hawk?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's 220 and all the.
There's even a backup generator at the yard.
Okay.
Yeah. B Reservoir grant application got delivered and been received, and we've had lots of positive communication, getting some verification of different things for environmental and Kevin stuff, so it's moving along well. It's looking positive so far, and Silver Consulting, our grant consultant, helped with some of that final proposal writing, and kind of gave us input there, and they are actively looking for grant opportunities for the processed water recycle project. They also are helping us with the low interest loan application. But with the government shutdown, there's not a lot of grant offices open right now for her to.
This was the girl that was here 2 months ago? Okay.
How much for 25,000 you spent years ago?
900 maybe.
$4,900?
I think we just got a bill for 900 or something like that.
So she's got 20,000 left plus.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, and that's really coming in. A lot of that's hoping we find a grant opportunity. Because when it comes to grant writing, there's a lot more work involved. And that's all I can think of right now while I'm answering questions.
Mark and Tanya, are you just here for the fun that we're having
It's
tonight?
entertainment.
Okay. It's better watching TV here than down here and sat with us, huh? So, this was your choice. I know the movie theater is just about the mile the opposite direction, so.
This
is a lot more fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure we're more entertaining. Thank you, George. Thank you, Neil, on that. So, Bill, and Doug, do you want to do the constructed wetland thing now?
Yeah.
You ready for that, huh, Mark? Are you okay? Ready? Let's go to item 7B.
No, that's not under the, it's back on.
In the last few weeks, I've learned an awful lot about wetlands and their definitions and how the EPA and others do them and how they've been used and where is their engineering stay away from natural wetlands, even EPA tells you this in their guide. So the idea I had originally of just using Magalia Reservoir or part of it as a wetland would be a natural wetland, so that one's gone. The other one was constructed wetlands, and that's the definition EPA uses in all the writing and everything. At one time, that was called engineering wetlands. Now they call it constructed. And there's all sorts of these constructed wetlands. You can look up Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, and they give a very good overall definition of the picture of it. But what we came up with, basically, and I've given out handouts for you, you'll see that there's funding involved, there's different examples of people, and so we're proposing a constructed wetland that would go through the EPA thing the simplest. We're proposing, and if we can figure it out, and this is where we need this engineer, it might be a closed one. And Doug can talk about that, because he's really, I think that's one of the key things to this. We've talked back and forth, maybe you could explain to them the way we're talking about maybe putting it back into the pipeline and what have you.
So closed, I want to ask, for closed meaning you don't need an NPDES permit, it will go back into the treatment plant?
Yes. That's the idea behind it. When we got educated, and some of it was today talking to Jim on the phone, we got more and more educated as individuals about NPDES permit. I had a friend who told me, you got to hone in on that thing and make sure you. Okay, so we came up with an idea in discussing it. We don't know if it, anyways, an idea. Doug's done, he's had experience with these wetlands, and he's going to share with us what his idea.
The experience I've had with wetlands is basically constructed ones and engineered ones. But it all has to do with the fluid out of sewer plants. A number of these that were tight. And I've looked at several of them over the state, helped design one for down at Butte. Our population at Butte College had been heavy in the summertime, it would have worked, but it didn't really would have not done the job with our population being heavy in the wintertime because of the soil types that we had and others. But I looked at some over the years, and I haven't looked at any in the last 10 years. But anyway, where they run them through a wetland, and we're talking about coming right straight out of a sewer plant. That's full of everything that you can think of. It's fluid, but it's been through the sewer plant process and grinding and all that stuff that you see in aeration and that. So there's everything that you can think of in that fluid. And now the state calls what we're doing above the Magalia Reservoir a fluid also. You read the plan on it. And I've done that when I get to the 04, whatever the thing was written, I can't bring it with me tonight. But they talk about the two ponds that we have, and we dump it back in the Magalia Reservoir. That's what nailed it. On this, because we dump it back in the Magalia Reservoir. We really only got, and Jim's looking at this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, or George, whoever. We only really have two items that we have to clean out of that water. One of them is dichlorobromomethanes, and I can pronounce it. I'll be done like that. And that forms when we add chlorine to the water, and then there's organic carbon and other items in there, and it forms that particular material. And I've looked up, in fact, I got that in here, an MSDS sheet, which Jim got from me, I appreciate that, and a bunch of other information on this, big stacks. While I've been in my convalescence, I've done a little look at this, and the half-life is pretty short on the material. And it's felt that you can aerate it and remove that. So I don't think there's too much problem getting rid of that dichlorobromide methane, you see. So that leaves it with aluminum. And so what we could do when we look at this, and we would be very foolish when we're looking at an $8 million plus project, for what we have to take out of it, that we would not look at something like this. And then what we would do, we would figure out how that we could dump it back into the treatment I realize one of the plans that's coming out of the new system on here is the water would all stay on, off the dam site road and be recirculated around in the treatment plant in that particular time, which you would wanted that. Now, we can only recycle, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, 10%, is that right?
Yes.
About 10%.
That's a goal.
Huh?
It's a goal.
Goal, yeah, 10%. And, so, with one of these wetlands, and we have this type of thing, I have actually seen them where, that we're talking about coming out of the sewer plant, real pipe, whatever it happens to be, is the effluent that's got nitrate, everything that you can think of that comes out of a human sewer plant, okay? And when it gets to the end of the wetlands, fish and wildlife, you can dump it in the creek. And that's what we would have been able to do down through college. But for the winter time, it wouldn't have worked. And at Butte College, and I haven't done this in quite a number of years, even though I'm still teaching here, I will be back when I get okay again. We would sample, that's Clear Creek, and we would sample the water coming in the upper bridge there off of Clark Road, where the school property starts. They would sample that, and actually the material coming out of our sewer plant was cleaner than Clear Creek was at that particular point, because of all the septic systems in Paradise. Every time Paradise flushes the toilet, it comes down through, not toilets, it comes down through Clear Creek. Don't put that in the paper, but, well, it is on here. Well, anyway, now, one of the ones that I looked at about 15 years ago, when I was really getting into this, I did some consulting on this stuff, was one over at Arcata. And they had things this out there off of 101, and they run it through this engineered or constructed wetland, and they actually take it and dump in Humboldt Bay. So it comes out pretty clean. And you can see on some of these handouts, the drinking water quality and all of this, and we're not talking about our water that has just 2 items in it. We're talking about sewage water that has everything in it that you can think of on here. So it really would be worth looking at on here to see what we can come up with.
No,
But I think we could put a system together where that we could put it back into the treatment plant.
So my instructions for you guys were to either find George had offered a consultant through Roger Cohen and gosh. Thank you, Lee and Rob. Gosh, drew a blank there for a second. But that met with some opposition on there, and they were talking about a constructed wetlands. Did we find somebody, and that dollar amount was $10,000, I believe? If he was going to have a consultant be a subcontractor consultant come in.
Okay.
Did you find that consultant?
The fellow I found is Ronald Price. He talked to the local consulting firm today and asked them if they had any engineering, and they came back and said, oh, we got an engineering staff. And they called me an hour or 2 later and said, Ronald Price is the guy for you. Now, you have the front page of his bio. His bio has all the different projects that you're involved in. All I gave you was the front page, but if you want to look at this, you're more than welcome. And here's starts right off the top with constructed wetlands. And his background is a Bachelor of Science, Civil Engineering, Chico State in 1967. MS degree in sanitary engineering, Stanford, 1968. Engineering degree, sanitary engineering, Stanford, 1970. And then it goes on to where he's worked and so forth. But he's done wetlands. One of the things I found out over the phone is that he did the Paradise sewage system at the high school.
Yes.
And he also was involved in the town of Paradise when they were trying to put in a sewage thing as a consultant. So he understands our community and where we live and what's going on. I don't know, I talked to him on the phone just once. I didn't offer him or tell him anything about what we're doing. I just simply asked him about, like methyl, I can't pronounce it, the bromide stuff. And he didn't have an ready answer over the phone, but with all his experience and so forth, I think he might. He has all sorts of things in here. Now, besides his work We found at least 6 cities in California, including Stockton, and that have wetlands. The others are over on the coast, Monrovia, they're down in Southern California. Some are quite large and drop their sewage when it gets out of the wetlands, goes directly into rivers in Southern California. Our project is quite small, but the one thing we don't know, have no idea, and this guy would have to give us the answer, is that he'd have to sit down with Jim and talk about volumes of water, and then he'd have to figure out how big of wetlands we're talking about. And then whether a pond, and whether it could be piped back through our system. All of those things are unknowns. And the location of it. Now, I know George has reason to object to the footprint of the Magalia Reservoir. I have no problem with that, except what I'm finding is if a constructed wetland is put in, that it doesn't interfere with your future plans for the reservoir if you allow for the space. If it was a natural wetlands, yes, the roof could fall in on you and it could actually just interfere with the construction of a dam. So, and this guy's had enough experience to do it. There may be somebody else out there that has this kind of experience because I just got it on the internet. I didn't, we didn't put out any offering sheets or anything else.
Well, the guy that Roger brought us was experienced in this type of thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, no, it's okay. The guy that Roger brought us, or was proposing to us, was proposed to us, had experience in constructing wetlands
Awesome.
for
Well,
he's done lots of them, for the purpose of what we're looking at.
see, the next thing as far as who the engineer is, would be to simply put out an offering, and whoever responds to it, things. I don't even know if this man may be so busy, he might not even be able to be involved in it.
Well, since,
Unknown.
my thought is that since Lee and Rowe do not have a stand-in building this, for them to evaluate the engineer, I'm gonna put some credibility in their knowledge of this type of stuff in food. So.
They can bring multiple options to you, you can pick if you think you have the ability to choose someone better than he does.
I don't have the ability to choose someone, that's why I would say he would be my engineering person that I would think I would have choose, since we did put him in charge of the project. So.
I would have, let me interject.
That's okay.
I would have no problem with him putting together a group of people that he would like to recommend, companies or whatever it is, and their background, and we look at them as a board. The only thing I want to stress is this wetland, even though it was Bill's idea, we really need to look at it. Because I watched it clean up some awfully, pardon the expression, crappy water.
Yep.
And our water that we're cleaning up is really not that dirty, is it, Jim?
But we
Raw water. Now, you may have a disagreement on that. It has 2 items in it.
Very different.
Yeah. See,
It's very different from sewage.
I understand that a wetland works great when you have dirty, filthy water. But if you've got our water, it may not work. That's what I was thinking.
We just don't have that much to take out of it.
Right, but
But
doesn't that stuff that you take out help grow the wetland?
The wetlands don't have, it may be that the wetlands can be small because it's only 2 things, and you're not up against all the stuff that comes out of the sewage plant and the distance, because some of these things are huge. They're 200 acres plus. They're handling.
Water kills the plants instead of
No,
fostering them.
Okay, so when George brought Roger here, and I'm not picking on you, but you kind of said what you had requested was not for a constructed wetlands, but now as it turns out, we are looking at it.
the term he used was engineering.
Engineering, but that's just a different name for constructed wetlands.
No, don't do that.
Are they not the same thing?
No, not according to EPA.
So they are 2 different things.
Oh, yes, they were very
Okay.
specific about this. Constructed wetlands is what you want to do, regardless if you're doing the same thing. They didn't want to call an engineer, and natural wetlands is something you don't want to touch. That's what EPA advises.
George kind of alluded to that night, that was not going to be a touchable item in the first place. So, I don't know how we do this with asking Roger to basically bring back his offer to the table. Are you opposed to him, the person that he had? We didn't even see who the person was. He said he had a person that could do what we
I'm
needed.
not opposed to a person, be it from Roger or Kreitz or whoever. I just want us to make sure we have several people, hopefully will apply, that have a background similar to Kreitz, where they've done wetland work.
So you'd like Roger, if we were going to ask anybody, this is a pleasure to do this, we were going to ask anybody, we would ask Roger to bring, get an RFP of engineers instead of just one.
Well, I think,
Is that what I'm understanding between what Bill's saying and what, I'm trying to put,
yeah, I hear
I'm
you.
trying to put everybody's together.
I think the idea of the $10,000 is, yes, it's a 10,000-foot elevation, but at this point, that's all they're gonna be able to give you.
Yes.
So you're gonna have to spend money for them to come up, evaluate it, figure out if it's feasible, and then they'll know enough to be able to tell you what the engineering costs associated with that would be to move on further.
Constructed.
So you think that's going to go
Engineering,
way beyond,
design, whatever word you want to use.
way beyond the $10,000?
Oh, yeah. I think,
You think it's going to cost us $10,000 to hear the guy say that?
to tell you whether it's feasible and know enough to be able to tell you what it would cost to
Yeah.
design it.
A very rough estimate.
Right, I don't think anyone else would do it for that.
We're paying somebody $10,000 to walk up here and say, yeah, sure, it's feasible.
Oh, no, he's gonna do more than that.
Well, no, it's sure, that's just for the sure it's feasible. That doesn't mean he gave you any kind of number. Sure, it's feasible for $8 million, sure, it's feasible for $20 million.
But some of
Or
the
$2
big
million.
unknowns, you know, I presented 2 locations on PRPD property, and Dr. Kell, I didn't like those spots. What spots are we gonna tell this person is available to
We really don't have
construct
those
or
two
whatever,
spots.
a wetland?
The problem here is that the spots you suggested weren't feasible. They're not to be even considered at all, because you'd have pumping charges up the hill and all sorts of things. The idea we have is to drop the water out of those ponds into a wetland, right on the side of the reservoir, if possible. It's been done. And treat it there. That would keep the construction costs down, and keep pumping charges down. The pipeline is there. If you're going to, if we can feasibly drop the water into the pipeline, we can do that. And we know this from an ag experience. And the problem that I see is that part of it is just, you think it's a waste of time to even look into it, and yet we have these reports. The one in Arcata, the first major one in the state, won national prizes and so forth from the federal government. They've been used as an example. We have examples of wetlands, constructed wetlands all over the state that are successfully working. So I don't
think we're gonna drop it out of those ponds and put it anywhere below, between there and the reservoir.
I did not say it wouldn't work. I said it could work, and I gave 2 locations that I thought could work. I can't tell you that it's unfeasible because of pumping costs. I have no idea. If you want to give me direction to hire, to have Roger bring somebody to evaluate gravity solution ponds, if that satisfies what you're looking for, then I'll give them that direction. And that.
Can I write the directions on what it is? It doesn't sound like you're.
You asked them.
Yeah, I know, but you're not being anyway called cooperative. And
I-
yes.
Well, he just said he could get Roger to do it, so I think he's being cooperative. I don't think George thinks it's a feasible idea that's gonna work in our particular situation.
I realize
Is
that.
that fair?
Gravity.
Is that fair?
Correct.
I think George thinks,
I told you in my
and George is an engineer,
presentation,
so I do
I
kind of
told you
respect it.
that, yes, I think it's feasible. I think if you use those 2 PRPD locations, you could construct a wetland and make it work.
And
I think it would
At
quite a cost and so forth.
Would we be able to, in either one of those locations, you pump it up to your run it out, you know, we built the hill the way we went to, would we be able to gravity it back into, say, the Magalia bypass and run it back to the sewer plant, treatment plant?
Yeah, that was one of the options.
See, that would work.
Fact,
But I was
the
thinking,
dollar numbers I gave you suggested it could be cheaper.
okay, if I, one of them that I looked at is all here against sewer. What they did was they ran it down through the wetland, we brought sewer water, okay? And then when they get down to the collection thing, and it's almost this way up in Arcadia, when it goes into a lake, and from there they have the option of pumping it back to the sewer plant or into Humboldt Bay. And generally they pump it into Humboldt Bay on here, and it's got awards, you know. And there's one down in the Central Valley that they actually pump it over the hill and people water ski on it. And, you know, they actually pump it over the hill, once it gets topped, it runs down. But, you had a $10,000 fee figure, was that working with Roger?
Yes.
And
Well,
he
you know,
provided
since
the
we're-
data, which means we're not starting somebody off from ground zero.
Hold on, we don't want to reinvent the wheel.
So that's why the guy that
And,
Roger was presenting was actually, I thought, a viable source.
well, I don't think,
He would have access to all Roger's information, which would then help him
well, I don't
maybe make
think,
a better qualified decision.
I think Roger, I feel comfortable enough, because I think I moved the $113,000 that we're paying him now. We'll talk about that when we get to the bill. But, I'm sure that Roger would bring a competent person on. I mean, he'd have no reason not to bring a competent person.
Totally agree.
And the experience, yeah, you know.
Because he is not the builder of the project.
Yeah, but see, Bill said because it would knock out the other project, he might not be, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Well, he'd be,
Executive?
but that's not good for future business down the road. That's not like how you build your businesses.
Let me,
Yeah, you know, I told him it wasn't in their best interest to build a $2 million project because it didn't put $5 in my pocket. So I said to build the $8 million project, and then, you know, I made a lot more money. Well, that's not really good for your name down the road. That's, that money in your project and your
let me ask a question. We're talking $10,000 for Roger, whoever you would bring on, or this other person that Bill found, for the feasibility of it and all of the other stuff, okay? You get a lot for $10,000, even from an engineer. We have, and we just paid him $20,000, lead and roll, $113,000, right? And all he's developing with Jim and Neil and Bill, and you, is concept, right? There's 5 or 6 other dollars I've been told to make that work. And that's all he's doing, is the concept.
Yes.
Now, okay, and let's say it's gonna be an $8 million project, any one of the concepts. How much of the working plan is gonna cost us for that $8 million project?
Depends.
Plus $100.
Yeah, it really depends on which one we pick.
Yeah.
Okay, say, just pick one out of the air.
I thought he gave that in his presentation, so I just.
No, he didn't, he did you guys, maybe. He didn't when he was here with us.
A general rule, you're looking at probably,
10%.
that'd be the high end.
Well,
Probably.
I know some of the state I used to do, with the state, the architect, of course, they had a scheme.
Mhm.
They got 10% of the cost, you know, so.
I'm gonna guess that most of these alternatives would be closer to 5%.
5%,
That's
so
just my
we'd be talking
estimate, 400 grand.
300, 400 grand.
300, 400 grand. Although, we missed an $8 million project.
Okay, so to move this along, because the clock is still ticking
Still
on this
ticking.
project, and we're not going forward, so. Do I have a motion from anybody that is going to ask Roger to bring in his, like we rejected last month, bring in his consultant or sub or whatever it is. We're not gonna put out an RFP to get multiple consultants, because we want the guy that's gonna have access to all the information.
You can make a motion to have Roger bring multiple consultants that he can find to you for approval. You can pick the one.
Okay, so multiple consultants.
That's the pleasure of the board.
Or you can authorize the work, not to exceed $10,000. and see what it gets you. Yeah. You
Because
guys,
he already brought us one for 10,000,
right, you could say,
so
we'll
maybe,
authorize that expenditure.
okay.
And I'm not hearing a big
How did you
consensus,
leave
but
him,
Well,
when we turned it down last time? How did you contact him?
Oh, yeah, I contacted him,
And what did
because
he
his
say?
guy was coming up the next day,
Okay,
the Friday.
and what did he say? Did he get upset or anything?
No,
So you think if we just renewed it, it'd be okay?
yeah, because he's marching forward. You
Yeah.
know, he's got a project
He's got an
to do.
agenda to be sticking to.
If you want, and he's got a timeline,
Mhm.
and so bringing on this alternative, it's not gonna stop him from evaluating what he needs to evaluate.
Well, I'm sure the person, he would be, Roger wouldn't bring up, he wasn't experienced and competent and had experience doing it.
And the guys that had experience.
Are you satisfied,
We're asking-
Bill? Are you satisfied with that, even though you looked up this other guy?
Oh, yeah, I'm not, I didn't tell this other guy anything except
No, I
to
know.
investigate.
He had no,
No, if, what George suggested, what,
Engineer.
Roger did for the creative watershed, wetlands, that you bring several engineers.
Yeah.
One or, that means more than two, I guess, or one or two.
He had one.
I know he had one,
He had one, he was off.
But he didn't contact
See,
him
now this way Roger would not be inventing the wheel.
No, he wouldn't.
He had
the choice then would be
All these
the
other-
board's choice, it wouldn't be Roger's choice as such. He could recommend two people. That gets rid of my concern about conflict of interest.
Let's see if, let's have a motion, somebody, quickly. Let's have a motion to have Roger bring in multiple engineering consultants on this issue if they are available. Because first you gotta get somebody to bite
So moved.
$10,000.
Just move that.
So moved.
Okay, because you're dangling a carrot out there, doesn't necessarily mean there's somebody to jump on. It just means that we're dangling it.
when is Roger's next timeline? Has he got something that he's gonna deliver to us?
Yeah, we're likely to have a special meeting, hopefully before our next regular meeting.
See, I'm concerned about that motion that you're considering, because you're talking, okay, next month, we're gonna have guys come in, and then the board then chooses presumably which one you wanna have a look at this possibility, and then they're gonna want 30 to 60 days at least to then, formulate their
Or just keep
opinion on
dragging
it.
the time frame out, that's, I mean,
Well,
every minute,
yeah,
every
so
minute we
that's-
sit here, we're just dragging the time frame.
That's my
out.
point, and you've got Roger gonna give you some kind of deliverable that you're gonna presumably need to decide on.
Well, we have a small problem if we're talking about the kind of savings, if that's possible, to find out about. We can, because we're working on it, move the date forward, I've been told, to have extensions on it before the 2015. In other words, if we continue to work on it as we're doing now and do things, we can get extensions from the Central Valley Water Control Board.
I wouldn't rely on their benevolence.
I think we're gonna pass those deadlines anyway, well, just at where we're at right now, it's 2013, it sounds like plenty of time. Where I think we're passing those up.
correct me if I'm right or wrong, but we moved that $8 million into the 14-15 budget. If I'm not going to commit anything that we haven't figured out how to pay for it. I mean, it'll be one no vote, okay? And I won't approve anything that we haven't figured out how we're going to pay for it, which means that we're going to have to go to Prop 218. Let's say it's $8 million. Whether it's a rate increase, grants, or whatever it is, And because we looked at the budget, and if we do that, we're basically going to wind up with $50,000 left over or something like that. So one big pipe leak, and we're
Well, once
Where
again,
did
this
she
is
go? We
a
could all
have to do
go down, where did she
thing.
go?
This is not are we picking projects we want to do? This is a have to do thing.
Let me tell you, I completely support authorizing $10,000 for Roger to bring on a consultant and do an initial evaluation, only for the purpose of, it's out there, and now we will have a document that we can reference in the CEQA process. Here's an alternative.
Yes, that's good thinking.
Let's do it.
So let me offer a suggestion. Authorize George to
because cleanup sewage water, and I'm not saying that's not, but that's not the same water we're talking about.
Same water we're
So
talking
I'm
about.
not exactly convinced either that cleanup sewage water with heavy solids and so forth in it is our drinking water, which is, I mean, basically we have something that's a little dirtier than normal drinking water, you know, pulling that stuff out.
Oh, and I want to make sure that what comes out the other end,
Has to
if
be,
you want to recycle it,
has to be.
it's not going to impact our drinking water. Because that's my number one.
Well, you see, one of the things also, some of the research that I've done on this, and I'm learning more every day, it's quite interesting. This bromine, methane, I got it out, Jim. If we put that back into the bypass pipe as we bring it in, well then, hopefully there would be none of it in there. But when they chlorate it up there, we could actually create more, if it was organic matter and all that. That would be one of the things see this engineer have to look at.
Right.
See, so there's other ramifications
Adding
to
an
it.
organic component
Yeah,
back
so
to
that's
it.
what this dichlorobromide methane.
We might be magnifying the problem,
We
not.
could be, but we most likely won't be, but we don't know what else to look at.
Well, see, that's the question I asked Grimes on the phone, he couldn't answer me. And so one of the first things we have to find out is just that. Can a wetland clean up this the chemicals, aluminum and that we have, bromide that we have efficiently? And in what size wetland can do that? And
And for a long term.
it's a long-term created wetland. These things have been in operation now. The one over in Arcata is coming into 30 years.
30 years, I looked at it, was 10 years old.
Yeah, and the other ones in the valley are approaching 20 years or more. So this is not untried,
See,
experimental.
I don't think there's anything wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with this area idea. What I think is we need to have an engineer tell us, can we put it here? Because it doesn't matter what they do in the valley or any other place in the world, if we can't stick it here, it doesn't really matter. Because this is what we have, this is where we
No,
have.
no, I understand.
We have to put it somewhere in this general vicinity.
but getting back to one or two of the spots that George was talking about, and we have to talk about whatever it is. Environmentalists love wetlands.
Yeah.
Because it's habitat, they just love it, they really do. Even if there's sewer,
We wouldn't get our water back.
yeah, we would, we'd run it down.
On the bow hunters range up there, we wouldn't get the water back, right?
We possibly could, we'll have a lot of losses, but we'll get some.
Yeah, well, okay, let's just say we're not gonna get back a good sizable water return from putting it up there to go
That's
to
a
the
good assumption.
The other place that you had, we could maybe get the water, if it was suitable water, enough to run back in.
You know, as far as grants, I keep, I'm sorry, but as far as grants are concerned, environmental groups love wetlands. They just flat love wetlands, they really do. Because of the habitat and that they develop, they just flat love it.
There isn't much water in the two areas we're proposing. We're in the middle of summer, so if we had water up there that was like made of
One
wet,
of the things,
it'd be a different environment.
one of the things I think has to be done is on the opposite side, on the west side of the reservoir, where I'm very familiar with the land and the botanical gardens and a garden, and it's turned over to Park and Rec District. It is now, for all practical purposes, their property. I don't think we should even consider that side at all. There's a botanical gardens and a lakeside park that's being planned and worked on by the community up there with their support. So we take the west side off. And on the east side, I don't know, I haven't talked to Mike about Coon Lake Park or anything else. But, and the one down below our ponds should be considered. Those are the two areas I think.
We'll let the engineer decide where's a viable spot for it.
That's what
All I know is it has to go somewhere here, and it has to go somewhere here viably, and last for, I'm gonna be with like Doug, I'm not gonna set it on if it's not gonna last for more than about 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
If it's a 5-year solution, it isn't.
Did Larry's motion,
No, it's not.
well, wait a minute, make it again.
Well, I think
Dustin didn't like it.
Dustin,
Oh, he did.
yeah, that's why we,
Why don't you?
But maybe the motion should tie it to
My s-
when Roger comes up. Do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Do what?
no, at the same time he's proposing
At the
this
same
special
time he
meeting we're
comes up
talking
with a
about.
special meeting, we also have the.
No, let's not confuse those two meetings.
No, No?
No.
Okay.
My suggestion was trying to address Sep's concern that the clock is ticking. I mean, if the consensus from a majority of the board is we're likely gonna hire somebody to do some kind of minimal level of analysis feasibility, then why don't you delegate that to George, authorize him to spend $10,000, and then condition that approval on George finding the sub-consultant to be adequately qualified.
And then bring it to the board, I think.
And then we get him working tomorrow, or as soon as we can, that sub-consultant, and then he can bring the product of his work as soon as he can.
We don't need to see it like we were going to before that.
Right.
Someone
It's
say
just an
so
option.
moved. Just waiting for those words.
I think that's a very good motion, but predominantly he would work with Roger, wouldn't he? You would work with Roger?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, it's gonna go through, Rob.
Yeah.
I still move.
Okay, yes, we got a second.
Second.
Any comment from the public?
I thought we were gonna have two. I thought it was Bill's idea to have two or more, have Roger get two or more,
Well,
right?
The point being here is that we don't know that there's going to be two people that want to sign up for the $10,000 thing.
Well, how about
If
if,
two people want to sign up for it, we're not gonna just keep raising the dollars because we can.
how about
do
if
2 to
possible?
50.
How about language, if possible, two or more? If
Well,
not, then
that's
just falls through.
I think the language of the motion gives George the flexibility to analyze however many consultants Roger brings.
Okay.
Qualified.
And then he can select.
Roger's fine with it.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I don't think Roger was like, you get one and one's all I'm gonna pick. He goes, I found you one with your quick, you asked for something and I think it was like less than 2 weeks later, he had somebody in line. So it wasn't that he spent a whole lot of time looking for it. Yeah.
Just so we're clarifying for the record, is the motion not to exceed $10,000, at least at this stage?
At this stage.
Not to exceed $10,000.
Okay, this stage.
And then I don't, George and Kevin would have it figured out, but part of the budget that we approved was to have $0.2 or $200,000 out of the capacity fee. So when that $10,000 could come out of the capacity fee, I would think, because that's what we're looking at, is increasing the budget, right? You guys can figure that out.
Okay, roll call vote, please, Georgiana.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Ahmed?
No.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
Director Dunkett?
Yes.
President Crowell?
Yes. Passes 4-1. Okay, thank you, folks. On that. I think it's worth looking into and we need to expedite, we need to move forward as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank the board and thank George and Dustin for helping us get something done in this direction.
Yeah, I'd like to do the same thing.
I don't think the west side should be off limits. I think a wetland.
It's already committed, it's already given to somebody.
It's not all the way down.
When you get halfway down, it's
Here's what
wrong.
I think, water in a park is a natural, so it's not like gonna be like some kind of eyesore if it's a wetland. They're generally pretty, they draw in birds, they have animals that come into it. So I think we'll propose it to Mike, and if Mike says that we can make that work over there, then then we call it good. We're not gonna be the ones that delegate where it goes, we're gonna let an engineer decide.
What?
That's
I already talked to Mike, he thinks it's worth looking into.
Oh,
Water's
oh,
part,
good.
part is water, that's it, it's a natural.
Yeah,
habitat.
yeah.
But let's see what happens.
What we did is on our